Hello and welcome everyone, this is Calebovitsch coming to you with another Flesh and Blood video. Today I would like to talk to you about the Tales of Aria draft format and to guide you through it to the best of my abilities. But let's start with those abilities. A quick word about me if you haven't known me from my other work in other card games. For like 20 years, even more, I have been a huge fan of limited formats in card games. Limited format, what does it mean? So more often than not, when you want to play a card game, a TCG, a strategy card game, a living card game, you have your own deck. You take it, you go to play with a friend or to a tournament, and then you're using what you have already built. In limited formats, you are using the cards that you get when you arrive at the tournament venue. So for example, for sealed deck in Flesh and Blood and Tales of Aria, you come to a store, you get 6 packs of Tales of Aria, you open them up, and those cards you can use to build your deck with specific rules. For example, in Flesh and Blood, it has to be 30 cards. And not only have I been playing limited formats in a lot of card games, like Magic the Gathering, like Eternal Card Game, like right now Flesh and Blood, I love all those formats and all limited in all games. If you want some more background, you can check out my blog that is linked in the description of the video, where I have been posting a draft guide for Eternal Card Game for like 2 years, several expansions worth. Right now there's a universal draft guide for Eternal there as well, so if you're playing Eternal Card Game as well, check that one out. Alright, but what does drafting in Flesh and Blood mean? Well, if you go to a draft, you sit down at a table of usually 8 people, because 8 is the perfect number of people for a draft pod, because it also means you get to play 3 rounds, and there's going to be one person going 3-0, usually, on that pod, and that is going to be the pod's winner. Pod being the 8 players sitting around the table. So you arrive, you get 3 packs of Tales of Aria, and you sit down. Once all people are seated, everyone opens up their first pack. Looks through the cards, gets rid of the token, chooses one of the cards, puts it into their pool, and passes those cards to their left. And then they receive a pack with 1 fewer card from the player on the right. They once again take a look at it, choose a card, take it, pass it to the left, etc., etc. And then by the end of pack 1, you will have 15 cards. Once that is done, you open up pack. You have a moment to browse through your cards, and then you open pack 2, do the same thing, look through the cards, choose one, but then for the second pack, you pass those cards to your right. And for the third remaining pack, to the left once again. And this has a lot of implications that I will go through in a moment. So by the end of a draft, you will be left with 45 cards. And out of those 45 cards, you have to use at least 30 to build your deck. If you don't have enough cards for your hero, you can use a bunch of these cracked bubbles. This is a generic token that you can use as a resource, as a yellow resource for any deck. But obviously, these don't do anything else. These can't be played. These don't have any defense or attack value. So it is best to have 30 playable cards. But if you don't, you still can have a deck to play with. Okay, so the thing about this format is it is quite specific. Drafts in Flesh and Blood differ from those in other games, such as Magic the Gathering or Eternal Card Game, because here, to build a deck, you have to have all cards for your specific hero. And in this format, in Tales of Aria, you have Oldhim, the Elemental Guardian hero, you have Lexi, the Elemental Ranger hero, and you have Briar, the Elemental Runeblade hero, and the token weapons that come with them. So by the end of the draft, you can get any tokens for free either from the pool, your own collection, whatever, or the store has to provide them for you. But if you want to play Oldhim, you always get Oldhim and Titan's Fist. If you're playing Lexi, you always get Lexi and Shiver. If you're playing Briar, you always get Briar and Rosetta Thorn. Obviously, if you draft another weapon for them, you can, for these heroes like Voltaire for Lexi, you can use that one as well, but it is up to you whether you use it or not. Obviously, if you draft any items, any equipment, well, you don't get any tokens for free, so you just have to draft them as well. And that's the thing about this format. You have 3 heroes. Each hero is using 2 elements. Oldhim has essence of earth and fire, which means you may have earth and ice. You may have earth and ice cards in your deck. Lexi has essence of ice and lightning. You may have ice and lightning cards in your deck, and Briar has essence of earth and lightning. You may have earth and lightning cards in your deck. So the card types available in this format are Guardian cards, Ranger cards, Runeblade cards, but also Earth cards, Ice cards, Lightning cards, Elemental cards, which are kind of generics in this format, and maybe some generic equipments as well. So when you're taking those cards from your packs, when you're drafting them, you have to know that, for example, if in the end you end up playing Oldhim, the Guardian that has essence of earth and ice, you can't play with Guardian cards. You can't play with Ranger cards. You can't play with Runeblade cards. You can play Earth cards and Ice cards because he's got essence of Earth and Ice, but you cannot play Lightning cards. These Elementals, sure, because he's an Elemental Guardian, and Generics, obviously, because these are generics. So when you approach picking cards in a draft, you should know this. If you pick a generic equipment, you'll always have it. You can always play it in your deck, especially if it's Deep Blue, because it's probably the best equipment in the set. If you pick up an elemental action, then you can play it for all 3 of the heroes, right? If you pick an Earth card, you can play it if you're playing Oldhim or if you're playing Briar. Same goes with Ice for Oldhim and Lexi, and Lightning for Lexi and Briar. But if you pick up a Guardian card, you can only play it with Guardian when you're playing Guardian. Same goes for, obviously, Ranger. Same goes for Runeblade. You also need to remember what the weapons do for all those heroes and what the abilities of those heroes are, because that will tell you how they combo and how you want to approach building those heroes. I will get to that in a moment. But in general, if you open up a pack, and I'm going to show you those 3 packs as my potential pack 1 pick ones, i.e. what I would pick when I was drafting those packs, you have to remember, okay, so if you pick an equipment, especially a generic one, you will most certainly play it. If you pick an elemental card, you have 2 out of 3 heroes that you will be able to play that with. But if you pick a specific class card, there's only 1 hero that you will be able to play them with. And here's the fun part. You are passing cards to other players, right? So it would be good to know what the people on your right are picking, because that will be 2/3 of your source of cards. Okay? So this is where something that is called signals comes in very handy. Because if you get a pack from the person, I mean, you pick a card, pack 1, pick 1, so-called, and just slam dunk it on the table, it's yours, you pass the rest along. Then you take 14 cards from the person on your right, and you have to take a look what is in the pack, or rather, what is missing from that pack. In the first one, it's random. Someone could open up a legendary and just pick it, so it's not a real source of information. But by the time you get your 5th pack or 4th pack from the right, so this is your pack 1, pick 4, and there are fewer cards available in that pack, you will see which cards, which heroes, which elements are open, which means which are getting passed along to you. And usually you should stay open for the first several picks, which means even if you pick a great card for Guardian in pack 1, pick 1, There is a chance that you will not see a lot of good Guardian cards coming from your right. So sometimes, sure, you can force a hero or an element, and that is fine, but it is much better to see what is open and what will be coming your way from the right side, from packs 1 and 3. Okay? So if, for example, 4 packs down, it is your pack 1, pick 5, and you see 3 amazing cards for the Ranger, 1 great card for the Guardian, and no decent cards for the Runeblade, then you should think and consider switching to Lexi, to the Ranger. But after you pick it, you have to assess the next pack in the same way. So you have to see, okay, is that still the case? Because packs are sometimes skewed towards one hero or another, or one element or the other, and I'm going to show that to you in a moment as well. So you have to assess it again in your next pick. So if in the next pick there are 2 great Ranger cards, 2 great Guardian cards, and only 1 Runeblade card, then you might think that Runeblade is getting picked quite heavily. Guardian, probably not so much, but there is someone taking those cards. But Ranger, it is a safe bet that you will be able to get those cards. So right now I'm going to show you an example of how I would rate a pack 1, pick 1. This is the pack that I have opened a moment ago. I haven't looked through those cards, I just did this. So you have to also remember that packs in Tales of Aria are set up in a specific way. Your first 5 cards are Earth cards, Ice cards, Earth cards, Ice cards, Lightning cards, or Elemental cards, with one of them sometimes being a class card, as is here. So these are the first 5 cards in the pack. Then comes a rare. Then comes a rare or a majestic. Then comes a foil of any rarity. Then comes an equipment or an amulet, earth, ice, or lightning. And in the end, the last 6 cards are Ranger, Runeblade, Guardian, Ranger, Runeblade, Guardian. Okay? So more often than not, in each pack you will have 2 Guardian cards, 2 Runeblade cards, and 2 Ranger cards in this common section. You obviously can have additional ones in the foil rare or rare majestic slot, and there sometimes might be an additional one. And I'm going to show you that it goes the same for the remaining 2 packs. Okay, so I've opened this one up. Let's take a look at these 15 cards and think, what should we pick here and what should we consider? What are the good cards in this pack? Okay, so let's take a look between red cards and blue cards, usually, because blue cards are your source of resources more often than not, but red cards are your source of attacking and damage. So when it comes to red cards, you have red Arcanic Shockwave and red Rites of Lightning, both being Runeblade action attacks, both attacking for 4. So these are good breakpoints. These are good cards. This one deals 1 arcane damage to target hero when it was fused, and if you have dealt arcane damage this turn, it gains Go Again, which is great for Runeblade. And Arcanic Shockwave is just an attack for 0 that attacks for 4, but if you fuse it, you additionally deal 1 arcane damage to the opponent, so it's an attack for 5, which is great and amazing. So you might consider taking one of these. When it comes to Ranger, you see that there is a blue Blizzard Bolt and a yellow Buzz Bolt. Not really great cards. When you're looking for Lexi cards, you're looking for red arrows specifically. Yellow arrows that cost 1 have a breakpoint, an attack value of 4, so they are sensible, but they are not first pick material. But as I said in the beginning, you should always first take a look at generics and elementals, because these you will play more often than not. In case of this, we have also yellow Cold Wave, which is kind of cool. In case of this one, you have, and for Guardian you have Mulch that costs 4, which is not really great. You have Glacial Footsteps, yellow, which is probably the worst one, but it is still a decent card. So there's 2 great cards for Runeblade, 2 okay slash good cards for Ranger, and one quite good card for the Guardian. But when it comes to the equipment, Ragamuffin's Hat, you can play it for all heroes. It is actually one of, if not the weakest generic equipment, so you don't have to first pick that. When it comes to the elements, you have Yellow Burgeoning, you have Yellow Sow Tomorrow, you have Yellow Chill to the Bone. None of them are really interesting. You have a Red Entwine Earth, which is probably the second best elemental, like generic elemental attack after Red Entwine Lightning, in my opinion. And you have Yellow Foil Frostfang, which doesn't have a huge breakpoint, attacks only for 3, but it is a yellow ice action, so this would be amazing for Guardian. So if you want to go Runeblade, in general, I would probably go for Rites of Lightning here. That would be my first pick. But you also have to consider signals, not only receiving signals, but also passing signals along to the left, because in second pack, you will be taking cards, you will be getting cards from that line of opponents. So if you want to go for the best card, you probably go Rites of Lightning, maybe Arcanic Shockwave. But if you want to pass strong signals and get a lot of people interested in one thing for you to take another, especially that Briar, the Runeblade, can play Earth, can play Lightning. So she doesn't play Ice. And she doesn't play nice as well, either. But you can, for example, pick up Frostfang Blue, not being probably the best card in the pack. But this means you can play it in Oldhim, you can play him in Lexi, you're not playing him in Briar. You take that, you pass those signals along, and maybe in pack 2 you will get more ice cards, more non-Briar cards. So the choice is yours, and that's generally the fact for most of your draft. The choice is yours, and there is never, or almost never, a one single best answer. The answer for drafts is usually, it depends. So which card do you want to pick? It depends. For example, you might know that people on your right, 2 people on your right, will never draft or play Briar, so you can safely pick up a Briar card and just get a stream of those cards coming from your right. But if you don't know that, well, then it depends. You can pick up Rights, you can pick up Frostfang. It is up to you. And that's the fun thing about draft. And the games differ a lot. Okay, so that was one example. Here's another example of a pack 1, pick 1. So once again, you have Elemental, 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 Elemental. This time it's not a class card. You have Rare, Rare, Foil, this time Common, Item, and you have Ranger, Runeblade, Guardian, Ranger, Runeblade, Guardian, and the token that you won't be needing. So I'll just put it over here to the side. Okay, fun fact about this pack. It has more cool red cards, and it even has 2 of the same card. This can happen. You can have up to 3 copies of the same card, which means the same name, the same pitch value, 2 of them in regular and 1 in foil. I heard that happening. Here you have 2 red Chilling Ice Veins, a really good arrow for the Ranger. There's also red Dazzling Crescendo, and a red Explosive Growth for Runeblade, and a red Thump for the Guardian. So these would be the cards that I look at first. If you know that for other good cards in the pack are Yellow Weave Ice and Yellow Ball Lightning. So Ball Lightning for most people would be a safe choice, as is Weave Ice, because both of these are elemental cards. One is Lightning, one is Ice. So you can so in 2/3 of the heroes that you will end up with, you will play one or the other. But this is a good moment to think about another aspect of drafting. There are 8 people at the pod, and cards are getting passed to your left. And at one point, you will get your pack back. Okay? So it is good to take a mental note of what cards are in the pack, but probably not a lot of us have photographic memory. I have very shoddy old person memory, to be honest. So I won't remember what exact cards I had in this pack. I mean, I might remember Double Red Chilling Ice Vein, and that's about it. Because, well, 2 of the same card is quite specific. But when you take a card and 7 other people take cards, and 7 cards come back to you, that is when you get the best signals from the table. Because, for example, if 7 cards come back to you, and there are still those 2 red arrows in the pack, that means that probably no one, especially no one on your right, is picking Ranger. At least not at this moment. Because people on your left might have also taken elemental cards, and in the second half of pack 1, people start picking up the class cards. So if you take like Ball Lightning, and the other person is probably taking Weave Ice, Runaways, etc., etc. But if person 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 are not picking these, then you know that on your right in pack 3, people will probably be passing. Those people will probably be passing Ranger cards to you. So for me, once again, in order to stay open, the best picks in here are Weave Ice and Ball Lightning. But which one is the true pack 1 pick 1? You guessed it. It depends. It depends, for example, on your affinity for playing the heroes from Tales of Aria, because Oldhim, Briar, and Lexi play differently. And if you have played one more than the other 2, and you have more affinity for that specific hero, and you know you can play that hero better, that gives you a better edge than having slightly better cards for a different hero that you don't know anything about. So if you want to go for Ice Lexi, sure, Weave Ice. And that also gives you a chance if Lexi doesn't come along to play Oldhim, because this card is also good in Oldhim. Ball Lightning is great for both Briar and Lexi. So these would be pack 1, pick 1, and pick 2, probably. Okay, enough about that, because once again, the answer is it depended. It depends, rather. And last example. Let's get rid of the token first. And once again, elemental, 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 rare, rare, foil common, foil legendary, common, Runeblade, Guardian, Ranger, Runeblade, Guardian, Ranger. Okay, in this pack, pack 1, pick 1, it usually doesn't depend, because you just take the friggin' legendary that is worth a lot of money, and you put it in your collection or you put it in your binder to trade away. Also, this is first edition, so this is a cool cold foil. Okay, this is an easy example, but let's say this was another Runaways, okay? Let's say this is not a card in here, okay? So let's take a look at what other cards are in the pack. Okay, I'll just put it here because, by the way, this card is amazing in Constructed. This card is amazing in Draft. So if you get it, you pick it and you play it, and you're very happy, and other people are very, how to say, not that pleased. But let's say this is pack 1, pick 2. And all cards except from this are getting passed to you. So what do we see here? We have Red Heaven's Claws, which attacks for 5 for just only 1 cost and blocks for 3. We have Red Chilling Ice Vein. We have Red Dazzling Crescendo. We have Yellow Weave Earth. What else do we have here? Not a lot, actually. So it is highly possible that the second pick would be either Weave Earth or Heaven's Claws, because they leave you most open. And of the 3 pitches, usually yellow cards are the weakest in Sealed, and not only in Sealed. But then other people would also take stuff like Winter's Grasp, Autumn's Touch, Chilling Ice Vein, Dazzling Crescendo. Okay. So that's it. I will be handling this one very gently and putting this in the head area for the rest of, I don't know, for the next couple of months. Okay, so that's it. That's it about the drafting portion itself. But here is what you should be thinking about while drafting. While picking those cards, you have to remember what your heroes do and what they're all about. Okay? So when it comes to Runeblade, whenever an attack action card you control deals damage to an opposing hero, create an embodiment of Earth token. This is a token that makes your non-attack action cards have a higher defense value for 1 turn. Whenever you play your second non-attack action card each turn, create an embodiment of Lightning token, which says when you play an attack action card, destroy this and the attack gains go again. And the weapon Rosetta Thorn, for 1, you get to attack once per turn. It attacks for 2. But whenever you attack with Rosetta Thorn, if you've played an attack action card and a non-attack action card this turn, deal 2 arcane damage to target hero. That's usually the opponent. So Briar for Briar, you want to have a lot of 0 and 1 cost non-attack action cards that say go again. And some attacks as well, but for her the number of attacks should be lower than for the other heroes usually, and you want to be maximizing your usage of Rosetta Thorn. Either your attacks have to have go again, or you have to play 2 non-attack action cards before the attack action that embodiment of Lightning gives you go again, and you're able to attack with Rosetta Thorn. For Lexi, once per turn action, turn a face down card in your arsenal face up. If it's a Lightning card, your next attack this turn gains go again. If it's an Ice card, create a Frostbite token under target hero's control, go again. Frostbite is a token that says the next thing that they do costs 1 more. Lexi's weapon is the bow Shiver. Once per turn instant, for 1 resource, you may put an arrow card from your hand face up into an empty arsenal zone you control. If you do, choose 1. It either gains +1 attack until end of turn, or it gains Dominate until end of turn. So for Lexi, her bow by itself cannot attack, so she has to have a lot of arrows, but not too many, because you can usually put at most 1 into your arsenal and shoot it, unless you have some reload effects. But you also have to juggle her ability to the best of your abilities, and you have to think about it for a long time, how to do it. Playing Lexi is not as easy as it sounds, especially if you want to maximize what she does. For her, you need a lot of red arrows, or yellow costing or yellow 1 costing arrows, so those that deal 4 or 5 damage. You need a lot of cards like Entwine Lightning, Lightning Surge, Ball Lightning, those that cost a low amount, especially if you're going for a Lightning variant, a go wide variant. But you can also go tall with cards like Overflex and other elemental cards that give you bonus to the attack value of a single attack, and just shoot an arrow for 12 damage or something like that. When it comes to Oldhim, he has once per turn defense reaction for 3 resources. If an Earth card is pitched this way, prevent the next 2 damage that would be dealt to Oldhim this turn. If an Ice card is pitched this way, the attacking hero puts a card from their hand on top of their deck. So for Oldhim, it is very important to have a lot of blue Earth cards and a lot of blue Ice cards. And for Oldhim, honestly, if you don't have at least 15 blue cards in your 30-card deck, then you have probably drafted a weak Oldhim deck. He is a Guardian, so his attack costs 3, 4, 6 when it comes to Glacial Footsteps. So you have to be able to play those expensive things, and you have to be able to maximize his ability. His weapon, Titan's Fist, once per turn action, 3 resources attack for 3. While there is a card with cost 3 or greater in your pitch zone, Titan's Fist has +1 attack. So usually you want to have blue Ice cards, blue Earth cards, or just blue cards with cost 3 or more, and that's the best way to go for Oldhim. So you have to remember that. And there's also some things you need to remember and look out during the games. First of all, if you look through the cards in the packs, you will notice that although most of the class cards have 3 defense, most of the elemental cards, aside from Winter's Grasp, Autumn's Touch, and Heaven's Claws, have only 2 defense. And there are even some cards like Ball Lightning or the Instants that have 0 defense or no defense whatsoever. So it is not like every card blocks for 3, but there are some instances where you are stuck with just like 3 cards that defend for 2 and a ball lightning in hand, and you cannot really defend. So you have to remember that it's not like every card in the opponent's hand blocks for 3. No. Some of them block for 2. Some of them don't block at all. And they might need those cards that block for 3 because these will have the highest effects. Also, the deck size in draft is at least 30 cards, but if you draft more than 30 playable cards for your deck, you should be good anyway. So the second cycle of the deck, the cards that you pitch and become and go to the bottom of your deck, do come into play quite often. So you have to remember, you have to be more focused on the second cycle of your deck. And honestly, sometimes, especially if you're playing with Oldhim or against Oldhim, about getting decked, about all the cards getting all the cards from your deck being used, and you are left. If remember, in this game, if you are left with few cards in your deck, like 1, 2, or 3, that's all you get. You don't get any more. You can only use those several cards for the remainder of the game. So you have to remember about that. And also remember that a draft in a draft format is around 30 minutes. So you please play in a timely fashion. You don't want your time to run out. Okay, that's a lot of information, I know, but I hope I covered most of the things when it comes to drafting. And I hope you will use the knowledge that you've gained from this video and win the next draft that you play. Unless you're playing against me, then I wish you to have some fun. All right, this has been Calebovitsch with another Flesh and Blood video. See you next time.